Hi guys, I'm sorry I can't be there in person. I apologize. I wish I could. I had to miss a period of school today, or two periods actually. I'd be missing this one and the next one, and unfortunately, I can't be there to teach you the Gemara in person. But I'm hoping this video suffices. I would have liked to be able to teach you the Gemara in person, and I think you would have learned it better, but I can't be there. So what we're going to have to do is test the system out, where I'm going to translate the Gemara. I don't want you to fall behind, so this afternoon you can work with your chavusas already. So we're going to test out this Gemara, and I'm going to do this in short intervals so you can take a break and find it. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn our Gemaras to Daf Lamed Daled Amud Aleph. So you should pause the video now until you find it on Daf Lamed Daled Amud Aleph. Okay, I'm going to assume by now you have the daf, and you are on Lamed Daled Amud Aleph, and I don't have the exact same page in front of me as you have, but we are on, we're going to look for the words Amar Rav Pappa. Okay, there's two Amar Rav Pappas. We're looking at the one that is after the words Tashlume Kefel L'Socher. For those of you that remember, it was last week, where we ended off last week, Tashlume Kefel L'Socher, and now you're looking at the words Amar Rav Pappa, Shomer Chinam Kevan She'amar Pashati. Okay, so this is what I'd like you to find. Pause now until you find it. Okay, I'm going to assume you found it, and you are there now. What I would suggest you do is I'm going to read the Gemara because as if no one is listening, and you should pause it every time you need to take notes. This actually, for some of you, might turn out to be more beneficial than when I'm actually there, because this way you don't have to tell me to slow down. You can just pause. But this afternoon, you will be responsible for this translation, and there will be no excuses. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start translating. Amar Rav Pappa. Rav Pappa says, Shomer Chinam Kevan Shamar Pashati. Once a Shomer Chinam, now remember, Shomer Chinam is somebody who's not paid but agrees to watch something. So as soon as he says that he was negligent, in other words, that he admits that he was negligent, as soon as he takes responsibility and says, I was negligent, Makne Lek Fela. So he acquires the kefel payment right away. Because at that point, as soon as he says Pashati, as soon as he says I was negligent, right, that's what we say Shomer Chinam is chayav for. As soon as he says he was negligent, then he acquires that kefel payment. Di by pater nafshe b'gneva. Because if he wanted to, right, if this Shomer Chinam wanted to, what could he have done? He could have exempted himself from the payment. Pater nafshe is himself, like nefesh, like himself. He could have exempted himself from the payment. How so? By claiming that it was stolen. Right? If he said it was stolen, a Shomer Chinam is not responsible for stolen. For if the item was stolen that he was watching, since he's not responsible for what was stolen, he could have simply claimed that it was stolen, and therefore he would have been exempt. Okay, Shomer Sachar Kevan Shamar Nignava. Now we're going on to the next case. Okay, the next case is now not a Shomer Chinam anymore, but a Shomer Sachar. So Shomer Sachar is somebody who is paid to watch an item. Shomer Chinam is somebody who's not paid. Chinam means free. Shomer Sachar is somebody who is paid to watch the item. So now, what happens to the Shomer Sachar? Kevan Shamar Nignava. Once he says that whatever he was supposed to watch was stolen, which he is responsible for, right? So once he says that, Makne Lek Fela. So he gets that double payment. Dibai Pater Nafshe B'Shvura Umesa. Because what could he have said? He could have, again, this phrase, make sure you know this phrase, Pater Nafshe, that he exempted himself, okay? Pater Nafshe. If he he could have exempted himself by saying what? That the item broke or died, something that he's not responsible for. Okay, so that's the first two cases of a Shomer Chinam and a Shomer Sachar. What's the next thing? Shoel Sha'amar Hareini Mishale. Now we're on our third case. We're on a case of a Shoel. A Shoel is a borrower. Shoel Sha'amar Hareini Mishalem, if the borrower says, I shall pay for the loss of the object, right? Meaning that he's saying, I'm going to pay for it. So just like the other two cases where they're Makne Lek Fela, he says, right, in the case of the Shomer Sachar and the Shomer Chinam, he says, the Shoel, the borrower, says, I'm willing to pay for the object. So here the Gemara differs. Rav Pappa says, Lo Makne Lek Fela. He does not acquire double. Right? Pretty interesting. Here he does not acquire double. Okay, so we have a difference. We have a difference between the Shomer Chinam the shomer sachar, who both, as soon as they admit that they did something wrong, they get kefil. And now the shoel, who, right, says, lo makne lekfela, he does not get kefil. Okay, good. Now, the Gemara says, now why is that? So the Gemara asks, b'mai havele lemifter nafshe? With what claim could he have exempted himself? Right? In other words, he, just like everybody else, had something they could have exempted themselves. They could have lied and they could have said, well, it broke or it was stolen, and that would have exempted them in different cases. Here, too, he could have said that, what could the shoel, the borrower, have said to exempt himself? So the Gemara answer is, b'meisa machmas malacha. He could have said that the animal died in the course of its normal work. If a shoel borrows an item, and he doesn't pay for it, but he borrows an item, and the animal dies in the course of natural work, so then he's punter, he's exempt from having to pay for it, right? So in that case, mesa machmas malacha lo shchiach. So the Gemara goes on to say, so why doesn't he say that? In other words, or not why doesn't he say that, but why can't he go ahead? Why doesn't the Gemara allow and say he is kona kefel, he does get the double payment because he could have simply lied, right? So therefore he should get it. So the Gemara says, Mesa machmas malacha lo shchiach. The case of an animal, or the claim that the animal died in its normal course of work, is so uncommon, lo shchiach, right? It's so uncommon that the borrower couldn't have really made that claim. No one would have believed him. He would have been laughed out of court. So since he didn't have a real claim, says the Gemara, he's not kona kefel. Okay, we're going. Yeah. Okay, so that's the first part of the Gemara. Now we have an Ika Da'amri. Now remember, Ika Da'amri is that phrase in the Gemara that tells us there's another way that this Gemara was recorded, and Rav Pappa's opinion is recorded in exactly the opposite fashion. Okay, what do we mean? He says as follows. Ika Da'amri, there are those that say, Amar Rav Pappa. Now remember, I know I'm going a little quick here, but you can always pause it. So Amar Rav Pappa, Shoel Nami Kivan Shamar Hami Mishalim. Once the borrower says, right, he can also say, just like the case of the Shomer Chinam and just like the case of the Shomer Sachar, so they could have exempted themselves with another claim, and as soon as they accept responsibility, either by saying Pashati or Nagati, whatever it is, and as soon as they take responsibility, they get kefil, so too the same is true with the borrower. Unlike the first Rav Pappa that said the borrower doesn't get kefil, the second opinion Rav Pappa says he does get kefil. And how does the shol get kefil? Because the bai parta nafshe b'mesa machmas malacha. What could he have said? He could have said that the animal died mesa masmach malacha, and based on the animal could have died in its normal course of work. The first opinion Rav Pappa said the animal could not have died in a normal course of work. Why couldn't the animal have died in a normal course of work? Because that's uncommon. Now this Rav Pappa says no, it could have happened that way, and there would be no problem with it. That's the Gemara. Now what I want you to do is I want you to look at Rashi, okay? And we're going to look for the words, the Divrei HaMaschil. I taught you last time how to find it. So here's the Divrei HaMaschil, Makne lekefela. So you should pause the video at this point until you find the Divrei HaMaschil, Makne lekefela. And we're only going to do the first couple words of Rashi. What does Rashi say? Nikne lekefel. He gets kefel, right? So and Rashi says, let's just see. So Rashi goes, actually we're going to read the whole Rashi. Look what Rashi says. Okay, so sorry for the lean in here, but I'm going to be reading out of the Gemara, and the Rashi's a little smaller. Rashi says, Kol chayuve uputuri de dalet shomrim yalfinon mikrai lakamen parka shoel. Okay, so we did this in the beginning of the year, right? This Rashi is going to quote for us all the obligations and the exemptions of the 4 shomrim we learned earlier. And now, skipping to the end of the parentheses there where it says Daf Tzadik Dalad Amud Beis, it says Shomer Chinam Yishba Al Hakol. Right, the Shomer Chinam has to take a shvua on everything. Im Lo Pasha. Right, so the Shomer Chinam has to take a shvua on everything that he wasn't negligent. The Shoel Mishalem Esakol. The Shoel has to pay for everything. The borrower has to pay for every case. No se Sachar Vasocher Patura Mina Onsim. Somebody that was paid to watch, or rented, so they're exempt from cases where something happened to the animal that wasn't their fault. In other words, like something happened against their will. But they are obligated to pay in case the animal gets stolen or is lost. right? Shoel. Now I know I'm going fast, but just pause the video and then you can hit rewind and pause and then go ahead. Shoel, but a borrower pater b'mesa machmas malacha haruyila, right? A borrower is exempt from the case of where the animal died in its normal course of work. If it's stolen, it's lost, he was negligent, anything else, if there's an accident, the borrower is obligated. But if the animal died in its normal course of work, then he's exempt. Okay, so that's and that was the deal that they made, that he would be obligated in everything but in the animal that died. Okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to look at your Meir Makomo sheets, okay, at the Makaro sheets. I want you to look at number 3, and we're going to translate the Shitah Mekubetzes, okay? Shitah Mekubetzes says as follows: is a fascinating machlokes between Rabbeinu Chananel and Rashi. So just a little introduction to it. Rabbeinu Chananel and Rashi say that they take this case a step further, right? The case was, well, the case of a shoel, if the borrower had simply gone ahead and agreed to pay. So there we say he's not makne le kefel. He doesn't get the kefel payment. Why? So according to the first opinion of Rav Pappa, the reason was because he was right. According to the first opinion of Rav Pappa, the reason is because that's an unsubstantiated claim. Who could ever think that such a thing would ever happen, that the animal would die in the normal course of event? It's not really taken that seriously. So here the Shitah Mekubetzes says as follows: Shoel afa pisha amar hareini mishalim. Sorry, let me continue the introduction. So Rashi and Rabbeinu Chananel debate what happens if the shoel actually does pay. Now, as our Gemara is talking about, where he merely agrees to pay. He says, "Yes, I made a mistake, so I agree. I agree to pay." So there, the Gemara says, maybe yes, we give it to him. The first opinion of Papa says we give it to him if he agrees to pay. The first one says we don't give it to him because it's a crazy claim. Right? So now Rabbeinu Chananel and Rashi wanted to ask the question, let's say he actually does pay. Let's say it's not just that he agrees to pay, but he actually does pay. That's their debate. So look at the Shitah Mekubetzes. Now we can look at inside source number 3 on your source sheets. Sho afa pisha amar hareini mishalem lo makne kefela. Rav Pappa says that a shoel, even if he already paid, he doesn't get kefel. Peirush Rashi explains, Dafal gav damrinan taima mishum de mesa machmas malacha lo shchiach. Right, so when we say the case where mesa malacha, where he dies, where the animal dies in the course of natural events, is a crazy claim, and we don't take it seriously. But he doesn't get kefel because we don't take it seriously where he agrees to pay. But if the guy actually pays, says Rashi, then of course we give him kefel. Rabbeinu Chananel, who was one of our early Rishonim, says no. Says Rabbeinu Chananel perished afilu shilem, even if the guy paid, nami lo makne kefela, we still don't give him kefel, even if he paid. That's the machlokes. So Rashi says that if the guy paid, he didn't just merely agree, but the shoel comes and he hands over the money and he says, okay, now I get kefel. Rashi says, of course, if you're going to actually pay, then we'll give you kefel. Rabbeinu Chananel says, no, even if he did pay, he still doesn't get kefel. Okay, make sure, what I would suggest, and I know it's going to seem tough, but what I would suggest is that you go ahead. I know you have a lot to do because you also have the substitute assignment, but what I would suggest is that you go over this video twice to make sure you get the words, because I'm going to make sure that you did not waste time today and you took this seriously. Okay, guys, I can't wait to see you this afternoon. Bye-bye.